I'm in a place I wanna be. I'm fighting things no one can see. Why are they still here?
So hi everybody, welcome to the Wednesday Shorts Nutrition series. Nutrition series. My name is John Taglieri from the Fit Show. This is Miss Jennifer Ciano.
Hi.
We are going to talk today about a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to be here for about 20 minutes or so. So if you've got friends you want to watch this, tell them to get on here right now. Jennifer owns her own company called Stay Fit. She is a Mary Fit. Excuse me.
That's okay.
Mary Fit. And you know what? Stay Fit is who I have next week.
Oh.
And I had just booked him.
There you
I
go.
mean, that's like
too many fits.
Yes, too many fits. So tell us about yourself.
I am a specialist in fitness nutrition as well as a certified personal trainer. And what I do for people is I help them just lead more healthy, nutritious lives. I offer nutrition counseling, nutrition plans, and just help people figure out the best foods, the best ways to eat to maximize their health and to live better lives.
And to live better lives, which is kind of what this whole show is about, which is a wonderful thing. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about today are going to kind of be everyday nutritional kind of stuff. First of all, I want to say thank you to last week's guest, Peter Velarchik, for being on the show. He did a great job. We got a lot of great feedback. Thank you for watching. Today, we're going to talk more about some of the mental aspects, I think, of eating, such as things like let's see. Now, eating healthy doesn't mean starving yourself.
Right.
It means eating healthy. So,
well, what's the first thing you think of when you hear the word diet?
Stop eating.
Stop eating. Yeah. Deprivation. What fun is life when you're constantly thinking about what you can't eat?
Right.
Right. That's no good. There are things you shouldn't eat, but diet in and of itself isn't about what you shouldn't eat. Diet is the umbrella over everything you consume. It's not just about restriction and deprivation. So that's one of my goals in life, is to kind of help change that thinking from diet as deprivation to just what you eat. And in that vein, because we don't like to deprive ourselves,
yes,
I brought us a treat.
We have treats already. I like this. First
yes.
off, we're doing this in the afternoon, which is a beautiful thing.
It is. It also has to do with lack of deprivation, is having some wine.
Yes. And actually, we're going to talk before this broadcast is over about the benefits of wine. We actually talked a few days ago in advance because I had just read yet another article about the benefits of wine. So we'll get into that a bit later. But what treats do we have?
All right. Now, for my friends who may have an inkling of what this treat might be, keep it to yourselves for a minute, okay?
Okay.
So I have brought, can you see that? Brownies.
I like brownies.
So take a bite of that. Let me know what you think, and then we will talk a little bit more about these brownies. Funny story is our 9-year-old calls these Mommy's special brownies.
So in case you can't see them, I'm going to eat this right now.
Yeah. So
because we're eating healthy.
Yes. I try to tell my kids, don't go to school saying that you eat Mommy's special brownies, because people might kind of take that.
Mommy makes me special brownies.
Right.
Wow, this is really good.
Okay, now what if I told you that brownie has protein, fiber, magnesium, potassium, healthy fats, and is grain-free?
I would ask for another one.
And antioxidants as well.
What are the ingredients in there?
So these are, and there are tons of recipes out there.
And I would say that there's not a kid around who wouldn't eat this too.
Well, the first time I made these at home, I didn't tell anybody what was in them until they tasted them. And even my picky 5-year-old loves them. She doesn't actually know that the main ingredient in these is black beans. Yes.
I would never have guessed.
No. There are black beans, eggs, coconut oil, maple syrup, raw cacao, vanilla extract. That's it. You pop them in a blender, whip them up, pour them in your pan. Oh, and of course, chocolate chips, because you gotta have some chocolate.
You have to have some chocolate chips.
Yeah.
That's been my biggest problem in the last 8 days.
Yeah.
Is Halloween.
Oh yeah.
All the leftover candy from Halloween, because
Yep.
I'm a chocolate junkie. I have a movie theater downstairs with a concession stand. So it's been an interesting thing. But again, back to the deprivation.
Right.
I have let myself snack. I have let myself indulge in small quantities.
It's about balance.
Yes.
It's about balance and finding ways to allow yourself treats so you're not going through life salivating over, the person next to you having chips or chocolate or brownies, and ways of finding ways to change typical junk food into, I'm not going to go and say these are healthy, but they are a healthier version.
They're far healthier than like a Dunkin' Hines.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Part of it too is people will mistake convenient for healthy or convenient for not healthy. It's just as convenient to make something like this.
Mm-hmm.
It may take an extra step or two.
Right.
But it's far healthier than a store-bought boxed version of what this would be.
Right. Which is full of processed ingredients,
Yes.
refined sugars. I tell people it's not a matter of, the only things I look for people to eliminate are things like refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, those things that cause immediate like blood sugar spikes and then the crash, because then inevitably you're looking for the next thing to eat.
And that kind of takes me to why extreme diets don't work.
Yes.
So as a client would come to you and say, I've been dieting and I keep yo-yoing. I tried this, I tried that, and all I do is go up and down. What would be the advice as to not do the extreme dieting?
The biggest thing that people have a hard time wrapping their heads around is eating more calories. Because what happens when people go on very low calorie diets, they drop a lot of weight very quickly and they think this is fantastic. I've dropped those 10, 15 pounds. The problem is when you lose a bit of weight, your hormone leptin drops. Leptin is called the satiety hormone. And I know Peter talked about leptin and ghrelin last week.
Yep.
What happens when our leptin levels?
We actually have somebody who would like the recipe, by the way.
Okay.
Joanne is saying she would like the recipe. So maybe after the show, we'll, if it's okay with you.
It's actually, I'll be honest, it's not my recipe.
It's not.
It's one that I found. There are tons of them out there. This one in particular is from a blog called Eating Bird Food by a holistic nutrition coach and personal trainer named Brittany Mullins.
Okay.
I do not know her personally, but the recipe is fantastic.
Well, we can post that recipe for you afterwards, Joanne. Not a problem. We'll post it on the page with this post. So go ahead.
So leptin, when we drop a lot of weight, our leptin levels decrease because leptin is made in our fat cells. So when we eat and we have enough fat stored for energy, leptin tells our brain, okay, we're not going to starve. We don't need to eat anymore. When you drop weight, you lose that fat, leptin levels decrease. Leptin is also one of the main functions of it is energy balance. Leptin levels go down, your body thinks, I'm going to starve. I need to lower my energy and I need to eat. So your energy levels decrease, that willpower is gone. So you start eating more to gain back the weight that your body thinks that you need. It's all protective mechanism because our bodies are all about balance.
Right.
So you drop that weight from your crash diet, your very low calorie diet, energy goes down, willpower goes out the window, you start snacking, weight comes back up, you get discouraged, then you want to lose the weight again. It's a vicious cycle between dropping the weight, leptin doing its thing, gaining the weight.
Okay.
So ways to avoid that are eating enough for your body, because everybody has a certain level that they need just to function. And then when you add exercise, you obviously need to increase your caloric intake.
Which is about 10. So right out of bed, your typical body needs about 10 calories per pound. So if you are a 150-pound person, right out of the gate in the morning, just to function, you need 1,500 calories.
Right.
Now, every step you take burns calories.
Yep.
Every stair you climb burns calories. If you go to the gym, you're burning calories. So you would take, if you wear a Fitbit or something like that, and it tracks your calorie count, whatever you burn during the day goes on top of your base.
Exactly.
So you have to remember that if you don't want to exist in a calorie deficit, then you have to say you burn 1,000 calories in a day. Well, now you've got to eat 2,500 to 3,000 calories in a day.
Yep.
But it's finding the clean calories, which comes back to the convenience.
Exactly. And that's the toughest thing for people to understand. They think, oh, I should eat 1,200 calories a day.
I'm going to go to McDonald's.
Right.
No.
Right. I mean, obviously deprivation.
Yep.
I go to McDonald's. I admit it. My kids go to McDonald's.
Yeah, I do too.
But you don't go every day.
No. But it's also, I think, in a lot of people have the notion that you have to avoid fat to lose weight when you kind of have to eat fat.
It's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
And studies have shown that back in the 80s, when there was the big low fat craze, when that had begun, you saw evidence, we say weight increase, because fats give satiety. They help you feel fuller. So if you're eliminating fats, you're not going to feel as satisfied throughout the day. And you're going to start looking for maybe that refined carbohydrate snack, which, refined carbs taste good, but they don't do your body any good.
Right.
So I recommend to people to eat full fat foods. Low fat foods, on top of not giving that satiety, they're often filled with fillers and emulsifiers to make them feel good in your mouth, feel as good as those whole fat foods do, but it's not natural. And your body's better off with the fuller fat versions. And studies have actually shown that fuller fat versions can reduce the effects of cholesterol.
So what would you tell somebody on a carb to fat balance?
Depends on the person, because what works for one isn't necessarily going to work for another.
And another fallacy too is carbs aren't bad.
No.
Carbs are not something you want a lot of, but they're not a terrible thing.
Right. And there are certain people who obviously need fewer carbs because of how their body handles them. Someone like you work out a lot.
Yep.
You can handle your carbs. You're very carb tolerant. If you have someone who is overweight, they're not going to handle those carbs quite as well. So for certain people, yes, a lower carb diet is beneficial. In general, it is a balance, and it really depends on what someone's goals are, what their starting weight is, what their body needs. So there's no set number that's good for everybody. It's a matter of what their body needs. A lot of people go for somewhere around the 30% of their caloric intake, and that's a good, healthy range. Obviously, some people, I have a client who has dropped 16 pounds in the last, about 6 weeks, doing a lower carb, not low, but lower carb. So reducing the amount of pastas and grains.
I think too, it's the timing. And that's something most people don't think about is the scheduling of your food.
Yes.
Now, we talked about this on Monday's show, and I actually touched on this with Peter last week. In the difference between I am in my late 30s, early 40s, and I want to lose some weight. I just want to get off the couch and lose some weight, casual losing weight, versus someone who wants to be competitive.
Right.
Even if you just want to go run 5Ks or 10Ks or whatever the case may be, there's a different nutritional need versus the casual. And that's where I think the timing comes in. Your average person, I think, can eat, but your average person with a 9-to-5 job has to really watch their timing too.
Exactly. Because they're doing they're sitting. They're not burning those calories. They're not working through those carbohydrates. Your body can only hold so many carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are converted to glycogen. Your body can only hold so much. And if it's not burning the stores, then it's going to turn to fat.
Right.
So it is a matter of timing. For a lot of people, oftentimes limiting carbohydrates to earlier in the day is beneficial, or having them after exercise. because they need to replenish their
Yes.
their body stores.
That's where I think a lot of people make mistakes. So carbs, I consider carbs now fuel.
Mhm.
I consider fats later fuel. Carbs tend to have a straight kind of pipe. They go in, your body uses them, they're gone. If you don't use them, they store. So if you're an active person, you take carbs in, you use them, you fuel out, you're gone. If you're a sedentary person, they come in and they spread sideways. People who go to work and have a bagel and then sit at a desk.
Yep.
Well, that energy, that carbohydrate energy comes in and goes sideways because you're not burning it sitting at your desk. So that's where I think the timing problem comes in for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're eating high density fuel, but they're not using it at that moment.
Right.
And then when they need it later, there's no immediate fuel and they're not energetic enough to burn the stores.
Well, it's still there immediately, but the problem is they might be consuming more so that, immediately they're not burning that. So that the glycogen is there in the body for whenever they're ready for it.
Mhm.
But then the more carbs they consume without burning off those stores, then it's going to get converted into fat, which again, fat isn't bad, but too much fat can actually, we talked about leptin, too much fat can lead to leptin resistance, where your brain doesn't see how much leptin is flowing through the body. So you don't get that shut off, that hunger shut off. So you keep eating and eating and eating.
What is your view of intermittent fasting?
It's funny. Everybody does a degree of intermittent fasting.
When you sleep.
Exactly. And I mean, that's specifically what breakfast is. You're breaking the fast, right? So I think a lot of people do it without even realizing it.
Right.
So I don't have anything against intermittent fasting. I don't tell people to do it if it works for them. I think over the years, medically, doctors and nutritionists and dietitians have, there's always been that thing, well, don't eat after 7 o'clock at night. So you have people who are fasting from 12,
14 hours.
Right.
Without even realizing.
Exactly. So I feel like the term intermittent fasting is almost like one of the new buzzwords. Every few years something new comes out and everybody latches onto it. But people do that without even realizing it.
Right.
And I do think that it has its place.
What's your take on breakfast as your first meal? For instance, high functioning athletes tend not to eat breakfast.
Right.
They will fast through a morning workout to go after fat stores and stay lean.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will bulk in the short period of time throughout the day, all of their macros.
Right.
What is your view on that versus waking up and eating?
I think for the everyday person, getting up and having a nutrient packed breakfast, having protein, having a balance of protein and carbs to help get you going, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
As long as you're focusing on the right foods and not shooting for the plain white bagel loaded with,
yes,
an
with
inch
butter
of
and jelly and cream cheese.
Right, right. Having eggs and vegetables and maybe, some whole grain toast.
It's another thing too is eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Eggs, don't eat the yolks. Oh, don't eat the yolks. It's eat the yolks, people.
Yes.
Eat the yolks. They're good for you.
They are good for you. There's good cholesterol.
Yes. I mean, don't eat 60 of them a day, but don't shy away from
It's
them.
moderation.
The people who are egg white crazy and drinking. I know people who are like this. That's why I laugh about it. They're sitting there preaching, I have to have my egg whites while they're drinking a frappe from Starbucks. And I'm like, do you not get it?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's some sort of balance for them.
Well, it's a mental balance for them because
Right.
they don't see something like that. They see that as a treat, not a bad meal, which has more fat and calories in it and bad fats.
Right.
Where if they ate 3 eggs with yolks, they're eating good fats.
Right.
And it's an interesting thing when you look at, and that's what I think it's the mentality a lot of people use and the lack of education, or maybe not the lack of education, but yeah, I know that, but this is what makes me feel good.
Right.
And that's when I think it comes down to what's good for you versus what you want.
Right. And a lot of people have I know what to do, I just don't do it.
Yes.
And it's a matter of and it's baby steps. You might know what you should do, but the idea of making all those changes at once is overwhelming. So I always tell people small changes lead to big changes. Make that small change and incorporate, more vegetables into your day, and then work on eliminating artificial sweeteners. Little by little, those little changes will gradually build up.
We have said that since day one on this show. Do one thing. Take one step in the right direction. One step leads to a second step,
Exactly.
leads to a third step.
Yeah.
Adam has a question here. It says, I'm consuming about 2,100 calories a day, and I've lost 13 pounds in 2 weeks. Should I be worried about my body's natural energy level? First off, 13 pounds in 2 weeks is
That's
extreme.
really high.
You need to eat more.
Yeah.
You should shoot even at the beginning of weight loss for what? 2 pounds a week when you're starting, because you have the extra.
Again, it depends on how much extra you have. If you have a lot extra, you can handle 3 pounds a week. Your normal average amounts recommended is 1 to 2 pounds a week. So 13 pounds.
13 pounds in 2 weeks is extreme. I would start eating more. Absolutely. Right. I would find whatever you're doing now, find another placement for a meal, stretch them out a little further, find a third spot for a meal.
Also
and put
depends,
another.
Yeah, it depends on how often you're eating too. I recommend for people eating every 3 hours or so, and eating protein and vegetables. That way, that protein will increase your satiety, and it will eliminate blood sugar spikes, help keep those blood sugar levels stable. So look at how often you're eating, look at the foods you're eating, and not knowing what your starting weight is, I would increase those calories.
And speaking of satiety, water intake.
Water is huge. The general rule of thumb is you take your weight, divide it in half, and that's how many ounces of water you should have per day on average. Obviously, if you're exercising and you're sweating,
a lot more than that,
yeah, you need to replace that water. And it's a delicate balance. Too much water, you have people who chugging gallons and gallons and gallons of water a day without sweating it out. You're going to dilute your body's electrolyte balance. Yep. Too little water makes you bloated. And a lot of people think, oh, I got to cut down. I'm bloated today. But not drinking enough water causes your body to hold on to any water it can, and you get bloated. So it sounds counterintuitive, but if you're bloated, try drinking water.
And the thing is, too, it's only a small percentage difference. When you do a body fat test, for instance, you can get your water percentage in your body, and over 66 is too much, under 61 is too little. So it's only about a 5% difference in your body that makes it either too much or too little. Right. So you've got to you need to make sure you're keeping up properly. Right. But it also helps with your hunger.
Yes. Yeah, because it helps you feel fuller.
Yeah.
You fill your stomach with water, and you don't really have room for much else.
So I think one of the takeaways from today is habits, mindset.
Yes.
How do you teach somebody healthy habits?
A lot of it is exposure. Like we both have kids. Yeah. Trying to instill healthy habits in kids is hard, as many of you parents out there will understand. Some kids obviously are much better. They're much more accepting. But it's just constant exposure and having people just try new things and finding the things that they like, and finding ways to get around their mental blocks of, well, I don't like raw veggies, I don't want to eat them, but find the ones that you do like and eat them. Find ways to incorporate them throughout the day. But the biggest thing is exposure and just getting used to it, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like when you're teaching kids to eat healthy, 9 times out of 10, the kid's going to turn their nose up at something healthy.
Right.
My 5-year-old.
So it's finding creative ways like this to get good things into them.
Right. And having them help make meals, no matter who it is, whether it's a kid, your neighbor.
We have Harmony Grace on this counter constantly helping us make things.
That's key. My 5-year-old.
I know yours. She cooks like crazy.
5-year-old she was super picky. My 9-year-old, she was always the one that she's the one that started this whole nutrition thing for me, because I had to learn how to adapt things for her, because all she wanted was the good stuff. I didn't even know what quinoa was before her. Now we eat it
That's
all the time.
awesome.
Yeah.
You mean quinoa?
Yeah.
Can I have some quinoa?
The 5-year-old was much more normal when it came to eating. So it took a lot of tries of just, eat this, or separating foods because they couldn't be together. If we had salad, they had the chicken and the cheese and the tomatoes and the cucumbers all to be separate. She wouldn't eat anything. But when she turned 5, it was, I like peppers now.
Oh.
And she's had spinach, green cabbage, red cabbage. She puts them all together. And it's a matter of you kind of let them lead the way to a point, but try to push them out of their comfort zone and just keep introducing the good stuff. And eventually they
just habit.
Yeah.
It's building habits. And even for adults, I think another thing for adults is, well, it's cheaper to eat poor food, when really these days you can put together incredibly healthy meals for $7-8.
Right. But then when you look at the long-term effects of eating bad food and the health effects, is it really cheaper?
Well, but that's the other problem, is we live in a very right now society.
Exactly.
Social media and the internet has created an in the moment world where it used to be very thinking about retirement, thinking about old age. Now everybody is right now.
Yeah.
So Monk had a question, actually. Let's get that before we get out of here. He said, can you define the difference between bad fats and good fats?
Good fats are things in whole fat dairy, in meat. They go along with there's saturated fat, there's unsaturated fat, there's trans fats. Trans fats are things like the oils that you fry your foods in. Those are bad. They raise LDL levels, that bad cholesterol. They reduce HDLs, the good cholesterol, can cause just an increase in coronary artery disease. Mm-hmm. So it's the kind of the chemical fats, I guess, for lack of a better word. You look at the more natural things like olive oils, and things like coconut oil, the medium chain fatty acids, which are shown to be heart healthy, and they help to actually reduce the clotting effects of cholesterol. Because cholesterol in and of itself is good. Our bodies need cholesterol, right. But it's when those cells start to clump together and cause blockages, that's what's bad, and that's what trans fats do. Healthy fats can avoid that.
What would be a couple of examples of healthy fat foods, like an avocado?
Avocado.
Red meat,
olive oils, cooking with olive oil, nuts. Nuts are great.
Lots of different nuts.
Cheeses, yogurt, if you can tolerate dairy, but nuts are great. Avocados are one of my favorite things.
So for instance, if you had a breakfast that had, you ever hear steak and eggs, right? If you had 2 eggs, a small steak, and an avocado, that meal is loaded with good fats.
Right. It's
loaded with healthy cholesterol. Where everybody goes, oh, the steak is greasy and the eggs have the yolks, and it's good for you.
The other benefit of the good fats.
In quantity, in moderation, of course.
And good fats actually help your body absorb different nutrients, because there are fat-soluble vitamins and there are water-soluble vitamins. A lot of our vegetables contain fat-soluble vitamins, vitamins A, E, D, and K. So by having some fat, like avocado, nuts, even a little bit of dressing, helps your body absorb all those nutrients, so you get more of that vitamin boost than you would without the fat.
We're coming down to the end here, but I want to tell everybody where to find you. I did get this one right. I didn't mess up this one. So I want to thank you for coming on the show today, everybody. This is Jennifer Ciano.
Thank you for having me.
You can find her at merryfithealth.com, and that's MERRY fithealth.com. I want to make sure there was no I in there for everybody.
Nope.
So merryfithealth.com. She is a trainer. She is a nutritionist. She will take very good care of you. Please look her up. Next week on this show, we have Stretch Rumatter coming on. Stretch is an award-winning chef from Kansas City. He has been on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. He's been on multiple Guy Fieri shows. He has his own Food Network show, and he's going to come on next week and talk to us about how not to overdo it at Thanksgiving.
Nice.
How you can put a good plate together without eating poorly, which is completely doable, even
It
especially at a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
If you really plan out your Thanksgiving correctly, you should be able to eat really healthy.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything you'd like to add before we go?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it, and I will tune in next week because I'm all about that.
Yeah. So thanks, would you like a brownie?
Yes.
So we're gonna
Cheers.
end this.
With brownies.
We're gonna end this with brownies and wine.
Because we don't deprive ourselves.
No, because we don't. Make sure you treat yourself well. Eat smart. Do one thing better for yourself today than you did yesterday. My name's John Taglieri. This is Jennifer Ciano. Thanks for watching Wednesday Short Nutrition Series. See you next week.
Cheers.
Oh, you went for the wine. I went for the brownie.